Hey there, my name's Neandra and I've wanted to make a video about Mercy for ages. There's already YouTube guides out there, but wanted to give my input anyway. I'm a Diamond/Master tier support main, and while not quite at 400 hours, I feel very confident with Mercy. I think she's strongest on defense, fine on attack, but after the 25% ult charge nerf, pretty bad on King of the Hill. It can work, but it was almost always because of Pharmacy and no one efficiently dealing with Pharah. Two important things to keep in mind as Mercy. One, you have actively picked to play the most defenseless character in the game, and two, your team can't spend the match babysitting you. So if there's only one thing you take away from this video, make sure it's a good mentality. I'm not saying you can't ask your allies for help, in fact, kind of the opposite. You really need to be good at communicating with your team. A microphone is pretty much necessary in my opinion, and I'd also invest in a good pair of earphones. I'm going to discuss 5 important areas of Mercy: pistol, staff, ultimate, positioning and mentality. Is it weird to begin with a pistol? I prefer damage boosting others, but it's a nifty little tool. My favourite use is when there's a bunch of teammates dead at your feet and your ult charge is super high, land a couple of pistol hits and you're at 100. Here I generally aim for those with bigger player models, like tanks, for less chance to miss. I think it's best to use her pistol in moderation. Being a Battle Mercy looks cool and gets you 2000 Reddit karma, but make sure you're not neglecting other duties, like me as McCree standing behind you asking for healing. Don't spend 20 seconds picking at Genji as the team gets wiped elsewhere. The easiest character to kill with your pistol are out of mech baby divas, followed by other healers, especially a panicked enemy Mercy who isn't as confident in their aim as you. Sometimes you gotta establish a bit of dominance, you know? Remember that when you damage someone in Overwatch who isn't then killed, chances are they'll be healed by enemy support who in return get ult charge. Now, if you're using this to build res, then it could be an even trade, which is fine, but be cautious of feeding with your pistol. This is why I mainly use it as cleanup, as my team do most of the damage. I recommend this over attempting to independently take down fully health tanks and DPS, unless you're confident you can do it quickly or don't really have a choice. I like to aim for enemies at critical health, heavily focused elsewhere, or have had their mobility taken away. I didn't know how to segue into this, so I'm just going to throw it out there. If a teammate's being frozen and won't survive the burst damage of an icicle to the head, using your pistol against Mei over healing can work out, since most of them stand still to line up the shot. Usually what happens is that they'll retreat into cryo freeze, which is a win in my book. Okay, so staff. Let's start with damage boost. I love this thing. If you already use this often, keep it up. I feel it's underused to flat out ignored by a lot of players, and I know why. Some teams are huge damage magnets, but still try, even if it's just for a second after healing someone to full before swapping to another person. I'm gonna throw some facts at you. Damage boost adds ult charge when your target lands their marks. According to Reddit, your target gets ult quicker when boosted. Healing someone at full doesn't give any additional charge. You won't receive charge when your damage boosted target is hitting Reinhardt's shield. So, if feeling unconfident on when to use damage boost, here's some scenarios. When Reinhardt uses Fire Strike against enemy spawn doors at the beginning of a match, during most team ults, such as but not limited to Soldier, Roadhog and Hanzo's, when a teammate is nano boosted and their health is above 70-75%, when a teammate you're healing is dunked by Ana's Biotic Grenade, Bastion at the beginning of a match when the enemy does not expect it, and just Bastion in general. When Roadhog hooks someone, especially if it's another tank, during your Zenyatta's ult. I was thinking of my favourite people to damage boost, and it's basically everyone, so I narrowed it down to top 5 who aren't Soldier, McCree and Pharah. Number 1, Symmetra. Oh my gosh, when she's engaging enemies with left click, damage boost just melts people. Number 2, Winston. His default DPS is 60, the same rate as Mercy's heal, which means she can totally negate his damage. Boost bypasses that, and I know it's dangerous, but I really like pocketing Winston's. Third is Reinhardt, but only when he's already engaged in combat. I don't want to pressure him into dropping his shield. Next is Zarya. Either you're making up for lack of charge, or she's just shredding people. Fifth is Zenyatta. Combining your damage boost with his Discord is some nasty shit. But really, everyone's great to damage boost and it's hard to go wrong. There are a few situational picks, such as Sombra. Her damage becomes fantastic when boosted, but if she's invisible, then you don't want to give away her position. Ana. If she's firing at enemies, especially Pharah, then great, but I don't want to ever pressure her into combat. Damage boost also has no effect on her heal rate. And lastly, just flankers in general who might get you killed. Gotta be honest, don't have much to say on healing, it's fairly self-explanatory. For priority when multiple people are damaged, you'll need to use your own judgment. Tending to the other support and characters who can't heal themselves should generally be priority, but this isn't really something I can just give a list for. Occasionally, allies make poor decisions. Maybe Reinhardt charged 30 meters towards 5 enemies. Sometimes it's not worth following them. It can be hard to restrain yourself from flying into danger to help a teammate, but some people aren't worth dying for. If second support is Ana or Zenyatta, place faith in them to heal characters who are poorly positioned or engaged too heavily with enemies. I'm not saying leave all the work to the other support, but maybe don't risk your life for a person on the front line who can easily be topped up with a sniper shot. One last thing about her staff, remember that it attaches a glowing beam from you to the receiver. I'm not a fan of the Mercy hides while teamfight strategy, but if you hear a bunch of scary enemy ults go off while you've got res, sometimes it's okay to stop healing, break the beam, and let people die if it brings less attention to your presence. What better way to segue into discussion on Mercy's ult than talking about letting people die, huh? Sometimes rezzes aren't worth it. When you revive 2 people who immediately die afterwards, you've increased their respawn time and the team now has 1 less ult. As support, it can be so easy to say we're losing because of the DPS, but a poorly timed or well-countered res can really hurt, even if it's not obvious how. Consider 2 things before ulting. 1, where the teammate died, and 2, where the rest of the team is. Say you want to bring back Soldier and Ana, but there's now 4 enemies on top of their corpse marker. Sometimes you'll want or even need to revive here, and other times it'll just cause the team to stagger harder. Mercy's res heavily punishes poor ult management. We've all had games where the team dumps 3 or more ults into one fight just to hear
Helden sterben nicht.
once the dust settles. At lower ranks where poor ult management is absolutely rampant, it can be hard to have a bad res. Once I got to Master, I had to start being really careful with revives because people actually hold off ults until after I've rezzed, which is how you effectively counter it. The most dangerous rezzes are the ones done just after or just before the enemy has completed an objective. Here's a clip Stay Frosty 7 posted on r/Overwatch. One team is just about to cap the point while the other is killed. The Mercy probably saw the opportunity to revive 4 people and immediately hit Q. But really, she should have backed off or let herself die with them. Now attackers can rush B and defenders are less prepared. Say you were in this spot on Hollywood. Your team's defending. There are 6 enemies on the control point about to cap the payload. 3 teammates have just spawned. 2 teammates are waiting to respawn but died on the payload and you can revive them. If you do ult and then they die, as they probably will due to being severely outnumbered and the enemy caps, they will respawn here. Instead of here if a res hadn't reset their respawn timer. As Mercy, it's vital to know when to say, sorry guys, I'm backing off, let's just regroup. Sometimes rezzes aren't needed. Say you're defending Anubis. 2 or 3 allies are dead on the point, but some players on the enemy team were killed first and the rest aren't making a push. Let your teammates respawn normally. There's often no need to res after a fight your team has won, especially when your spawn point is closer. While point B is relatively favoured for defenders, the enemy can snowball it, so having a res ready against a strong attack is so good, especially if attackers use 1 or more ults during a failed push. Then there's the other side when you're attacking 2 CP. If 2 teammates get fucked by 1 Helix rocket before you've reached the objective, unless there's reason, I would personally consider just regrouping and holding on to res until actually fighting on point. Sometimes rezzes are complicated. Say 2 teammates die before your ult is ready, then 7 seconds later 2 others die but you've got res this time. Do you ult here? Well, it depends on a few things like game mode, whether you're attacking or defending, that sort of thing. Basically, all I'm trying to say here is think before you ult. Just because you can bring back 2 or 3 people doesn't mean you have to. Waiting before rezzing is greedy and risky but also very rewarding. If 3 people are wiped within the first second of an ult, you want to be in a good spot where you can wait it out and revive when it's finished. There has been so many times when I revive 2 people and then a 3rd one just immediately dies after the animation finishes, and oh my god, it just makes me want to slap myself. Mercy is the one time in Overwatch you can tell people to kill themselves and not be an asshole for doing so. Now, hear me out, rezzes must be within 15 meters and that 7-second respawn period. I had a game on the pole where 2 allies were dead on point. Say Reinhardt and Farah. I'm above in a cozy little spot, and our McCree is on point and alive. He was surrounded by like 4 enemies just bunny hopping around. If I revive Ryan and Farah, then McCree dies, we stagger. If I wait and they respawn, then McCree dies, well, what the fuck do I do? So I told McCree to die, he did, I revived 3 instead of 2, we cleared and capped the point. I should probably say something about solo rezzes. The most common time I do it is by mistake. I try to get 2, but 1 respawns, I misjudge the distance, etc. Some scenarios where I can see solo revives working are if Symmetra dies before placing her equipment down, a tank if you're only running 1, say Reinhardt on Hanamura point A defense, reviving someone on the objective to enable overtime, a teammate who has a potentially game-changing ult and is prepared for the revive. I was defending Eichenwald. Enemy Rein and Anna were on the point with me and Soldier. Our other DPS, I think it was Reaper, had just died on point. I solo revived the Reaper to make the fight more even for us. They cleared the 2 enemies, our team regrouped and went back to the choke point. It was a bit of a gamble, but it paid off. I see the benefit of solo or tempo rezzes, especially at higher ranks where ult management is better, but I'm hesitant. Every player is alerted to Mercy's ult when it happens, and if I hear the enemy bring back 1 person, I'm telling my team, hey guys, res is down, let's be aggressive. 1-man revives demand your team win the next fight and keep momentum going for you to quickly regain ult. If I bring back Reinhardt on Hanamura point A, then the enemy rushes and caps the point, I may not have res ready for their attack on point B. In the past, teams on 2 CP attack would just sit at the choke point for 4 minutes with a thumb up their arse. Now aggressive dive comps are becoming more popular, and you may have less time to get charge. I've seen some posts about using Mercy's ult for the few seconds of immunity you get afterwards. I mean, just be considerate with it. It's not only Mercy who is affected by it. If I res someone for the immunity only for them to die a second later, I would just feel like a massive dickhead. Lastly, you're not a bad Mercy because you had 1 game where you only revived a few people, or still had ult when the round was over. Sometimes players just keep dying separately or in bad positions. Like, 1 person dies, they respawn, then a second one dies. Res does nothing if the team's trickling or just all round messy. If you can feel that happening though, consider swapping to another healer. There will be games where Mercy doesn't work very well. Positioning, mentality and communication overlap a lot. Good positioning is so important, and as I said, gets you better revives. In my opinion, Mercy has some of, if not the best mobility in the game, but it's heavily team and awareness dependent. Try to keep yourself always on the move, even if it's just in circles. And sometimes you'll die because there were no escape routes. But I stayed with Soldier, my mistake. And other times because you flew to your bunched up teammates while they had Zarya. That's hindsight for you. You have 2 awesome tools to get yourself about, Guardian Angel and Angelic Descent. To get the best out of your mobility, use them constantly and combine them together. Get close enough to heal, but also keep distance and have escape routes. What I love to do is fly to someone, cancel just before I reach them, and then use Angelic Descent. With this, you can often do a really nice curve. You get a little extra control over air movement, and move around tight corners really easily. With Guardian Angel having a 2-second cooldown, you can sometimes keep off the ground and keep zipping between allies. A lot of the time, good positioning is just as subtle, is this spot better than this spot? If so, why? What about here instead? The goal is to maximise escape routes and minimise the effectiveness of flankers. There are loads of small rooms and crevices to make use of. Say enemy Genji goes to ult on point and you're standing here, you've got this great back area to make use of. No map layouts like the back of your hand. Have health kits memorised and identify when teammates are going to use them. Don't run across an exposed area for someone at 140 health that's like 4 feet away from a big health kit and not in immediate danger. If you're hiding back waiting to jump in for res, be cautious and consider having your pistol out. Mercy can still fly to people with it equipped. Be careful of tunnel vision since some people will check the scoreboard and realise you're still alive. Lots of Mercy stand completely still while hiding and then just freak the fuck out if an enemy gets close. Here's a clip Utasusu posted on r/Overwatch University. In moments like this, it's okay to wait a few more seconds and let Mercy's health regen kick in before flying to teammates. The fast occasional breather can be quite nice. You should also keep an eye on flank routes, like at the beginning of Route 66 defense. Say your team's here. Like, occasionally look back and make sure no one's trying to come through there. Alerting your team to that sort of thing can really help. Always remember, Guardian Angel has a cooldown of only 2 seconds. A Winston jump is 6. One Tracer blink is 3. Genji's dash is 8 or requires a kill. Be slippery and take advantage of your superior cooldowns. Flankers have to be killing you repeatedly and rather quickly, otherwise they're just kind of wasting a slot. Lastly, if Tracer sticks a pulse bomb to you, stand still. Avoid being a bomb delivery service. No pressure, but as Mercy, you are the highest priority target. To survive, you need to constantly be thinking about your own position, the enemies, what ults they might have. Your train of thought should be something like, do I have any escape routes? If so, what are they? Having someone on higher ground is always great, especially against enemies with no vertical movement. Try to make it dangerous for your attacker to chase you. Is the enemy aware of my location? If not, who's looking for me? What props or small areas can at least partially hide me? I can view teammates through walls, but non-supports can't see me. How quickly can they help if needed? If you only play healer, it can be really easy to forget that other teammates only see a generic chevron. Combined with the lack of peripheral vision in this game, you may need to guide allies. There's a big difference with saying, Tracer on me and help Tracer behind payload. Who's the other healer? How can we work together? This mainly refers to Anna, and when you already have ult, she heals 75 each shot. If Soldier is missing 50 HP while you and her are behind him, damage boost might be a better setting. Same with Harmony Orb targets who aren't in life or death situations. How long into the match are we? Who's probably got ult by now? This is the big one. Get into the habit of trying to track enemy ults and play around them. It's a little tough. Characters get ult charge at different rates, but there are identifiable quirks. Let's go back to that Dorado clip I showed. I didn't know there were enemies on the stairs. If I had been positioned here instead, I would have seen them coming and might think, everyone's really close. Zarya is pushing forward. She has not ulted yet. Let's back up and stand here instead. Sometimes you can tell if someone has ult by their positioning. Like a Reaper in Wraith form dancing on the payload may indicate Death Blossom. I like to look at the enemy comp and prioritise which ults are most dangerous for me. Like, I think it's safe to consider Tactical Visor more of a threat than Deadeye. McCree is planted in one spot, and I should be in a position that blocks it anyway. I like being the eyes and ears for my team as Mercy. She can make a pretty great shot caller if the player's up for it. I like to check the scoreboard often and keep my team informed. Any character can do this, but it's easiest as Mercy since you're not in combat all the time. I say stuff such as, their DPS is Mei and Reaper, if anyone can play Pharah that would be great. Their Tracer just went Widow, please be careful. Their Mercy is still alive, please save some ults. I mentioned earlier that a microphone is pretty much necessary. Typing to the team, hey guys, Genji came up behind us, please protect me next time. While waiting for respawn often isn't good enough. Saying Genji flanking behind us over voice chat while alive will help keep you that way. During a team fight, keep track of ults used by the enemy. It's really helpful knowledge, especially if your team loses the fight. Like, okay, we know they're down Sound Barrier, Earth Shatter and Nano Boost. According to r/Overwatch, using the I need healing command while the healer is dead apparently just puts you on par with like a serial murderer. If they're not doing it to be a snarky asshole, either type in chat or say, I died, maybe find a health pack. It takes like 2 seconds and might save an ally. And on that note, I'm done here. Thank you so much for watching and have a nice day.